Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is so great to have you with us today.
Great to be diving in again.
We're about to take a plunge into a topic that might seem maybe a bit niche e-discovery, but trust me, it's undergoing this massive transformation right now.
Absolutely. Driven by some huge shifts in technology, especially, the whole AI wave.
Exactly. So if you're dealing with, well, the sheer volume of electronic data in legal matters, compliance,
Or just that data deluge generally.
yeah, then this deep dive is really for you. Understanding how tech helps manage and analyze all that digital stuff is, well, that's e-discovery.
Pretty much. And our guides for today are some really recent, insightful pieces, articles, surveys from Complex Discovery OE.
Right, we've sifted through them to pull out what we think are the absolute must-know insights to get a handle on where the e-discovery market is now and, frankly, where it's speeding off to next.
So our mission today, let's cut through the noise. We want to unpack the latest market trends, look at the money side of
The
things,
financial forces, yeah.
see how AI is actually being used in the field already.
Not just the height.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And most importantly, figure out what this all means for you. Whether you're working in e-discovery directly, providing services, building the tech, or honestly just curious about this intersection of law and technology.
Okay, let's just jump right in then. Starting with, I guess, the elephant in the room for pretty much every tech sector, the absolutely staggering amount of cash being poured into AI.
Oh yeah, the numbers from our first source, using PitchBook data, are, well, they're kind of wild.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so get this. AI startups pulled in nearly 58% of all global venture capital investments in the first quarter of 2025.
Whoa, hang on, 58% of all global VC? That sounds huge.
It is. It's a massive jump. Just to give you some context, Q1 2024, so the year before, AI's share was 28%.
So it more than doubled its slice of the pie in just a year.
Exactly. That's some serious acceleration.
And what does that look like in actual dollars?
In Q1 2025 alone, AI startups raised $73 billion.
73 billion.
Yep. And the source notes, that's more than half of the entire amount AI startups raised in all of the previous year.
Wow, that's incredible momentum packed into just 3 months, driven by those huge rounds we read about, like OpenAI.
Definitely. OpenAI's reported $40 billion round, Anthropic's $3.5 billion.
Yeah.
They're big drivers. And the source kind of nails the feeling behind it. It's largely fueled by AI FOMO.
Fear of missing out. Makes sense. Investors are seeing the potential disruption and just scrambling to get in.
Right. Especially the source notes. In North America, that region soaked up about 70% of that AI VC money.
It's just that gold rush feeling. But, whenever you see that kind of rapid, focused investment, you have to wonder, is it sustainable? Does the source mention any concerns?
It does.
Yeah.
While the overall tone in the source is pretty positive, focusing on growth, big data analytics, cybersecurity emerging,
Right.
it also acknowledges that some experts are raising flags about the risks. Are these valuations sustainable long term?
Yeah.
The classic tension between the hype and the reality.
The tech boom question. Is the value really keeping up with the investment? And interesting, you mentioned cybersecurity. The source also noted a little bump in crypto funding too, right? Almost like a footnote.
Yeah, that's right. $4.8 billion into blockchain and crypto in Q1 2025. So some life returning there, but obviously dwarfed by the AI numbers in this data set.
Okay, so let's bring this huge global trend back down to earth. Back to eDiscovery. Why should you, our listener, care about this AI investment tsunami? What's the actual connection to your work?
I think it means one main thing: faster innovation and honestly faster change. All that capital fuels more startups, more R&D,
Right.
which directly speeds up how quickly new AI-driven tools and services hit the market. The very tools that could reshape how e-discovery gets done.
So maybe more powerful tools coming sooner.
Potentially, yes. But it also means maybe a lot more marketing noise, maybe some unproven solutions hitting the market fast. So for users, it means new possibilities, but also a much bigger need for careful vetting, due diligence.
That's a great point. It's not just some abstract tech trend. It's a direct pipeline for new stuff, good and maybe not so good, coming into the tools you might use or provide.
Exactly.
Which actually leads us perfectly into the e-discovery market itself. Our second source looks at its size, its growth projections. What's the picture there?
The picture is definitely one of solid, steady growth. The source projects the global e-discovery market will grow from about $16.89 billion in 2024
Okay.
to $25.11 billion by 2029.
So that's what, nearly a $9 billion increase in 5 years? What kind of annual growth rate is that?
It works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 8.25% over that period, which is pretty healthy. for a market this established.
8.25%. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's pushing that growth? Is it just more and more data being created?
Data is huge, definitely. But it's not the only engine. The source points to three main drivers. First, no surprise, technology innovation, specifically AI, machine learning, natural language processing.
So that AI investment we just talked about,
Hey.
it's showing up directly as a growth driver in eDiscovery.
Precisely. You can see the connection. Second driver is, yes, the explosion of data itself. The source estimates data is growing something like 30% a year.
30%
Yeah.
annually. That's not growth. That's like a data avalanche.
It definitely creates challenges.
Yeah.
And the third driver is increasing regulatory complexity. Data privacy rules, cross-border stuff, compliance. It all gets more complex, demanding better e-discovery processes and tools.
Right. So it's regulations and data pushing from one side and tech innovation pulling from the other.
It's a pretty good way to sum it up, yeah.
Okay, so digging into that growth a bit more. The sources break down the market into software versus services. Is that balance changing? What does that tell us?
Yeah, there is a shift happening there. And it really reflects, I think, the growing maturity of e-discovery tech. Both sides are growing, but software is growing faster.
Okay, give us the numbers on that comparison.
Sure. The software part is projected to grow at a 9.43% CAGR, hitting about $9.5 billion by 2029. Services are also growing, but a bit slower, 7.57% CAGR, reaching around $15.6 billion by 2029.
Okay, so services are still the bigger chunk of the market in dollar terms in 2029, like significantly bigger, over $15 billion versus $9.5 billion.
Definitely bigger in total spend.
But software's growth rate is higher, so it's gaining ground faster proportionally.
Exactly. The source calculates software's market share nudging up from 36% in 2024 to 38% in 2029. Services dip a bit, 64% down to 62%. It seems small, maybe, but that shift really highlights the increasing reliance on tech solutions for automation, efficiency, scale, especially with those AI and ML tools coming online.
It feels like the industry is getting, I don't know, more tech savvy, automating the routine stuff, maybe,
Yeah.
and relying on services for the really tricky part.
I think that's right. Services are still absolutely vital, for navigating super complex data, figuring out the latest regulations, providing that strategic advice and custom workflows that software alone just can't handle. They work together.
Okay, let's pull this together. What does this growth and this software versus service shift actually mean for you, the listener? Depending on your role, a legal team, service provider, tech vendor, investor, what's the upshot?
Yeah, the source breaks this down nicely. For tech providers, the message is clear. Keep innovating, especially with scalable, AI-powered solutions. And integration is key. Make sure your tool plays nicely with others in the ecosystem.
Build cool tech, make it easy to use with other stuff. Got it.
Pretty much. For service providers, your job isn't going away, it's evolving. With data and rules getting more complex, your expertise in handling tricky data, cross-border issues, managing review strategy, giving advice, that's becoming more valuable. You're the human intelligence guiding the artificial intelligence in a way.
So using tech to make your services better, not seeing it as competition.
Exactly. Now, for legal teams, corporate clients, maybe a lot of you listening, the challenge is adapting workflows. It's not just buying the cool cloud tools or analytics platforms. It's integrating them effectively. Managing costs becomes crucial too, and data security is paramount. Cloud tools offer collaboration benefits that are becoming table stakes.
Sounds like it requires continuous learning, tweaking processes to get the most out of the tech investment.
Absolutely. And corporate clients especially need strong internal data governance, in-house expertise, and really careful vendor selection. Security, scalability, value for money. And for investors, opportunities in both areas. Fast-growing software, particularly AI leaders, offers high potential. The stable services segment offers resilience.
Interesting. And the source also mentioned who is doing the delivery, like in-house versus outsource.
Yeah, it noted that while corporations and government do most e-discovery in-house currently, law firms and service providers are actually projected to see faster growth in their delivery spending. Law firms at a pretty striking 12.59% CAGR.
Wow, that high growth for outside providers suggests that even with better tech in-house, maybe the complexity is driving more need for specialized external expertise.
It could point that way, yeah, towards more collaboration specialization.
Okay, let's ground these market projections with some real-world feelings. The sources also included a business confidence survey from early 2025. How are people actually in the eDiscovery trenches feeling right now?
Well, the survey shows a sort of cautious optimism. Just over half, 51.95%, called current business conditions normal.
Okay, normal, not bad.
And a good chunk, 37.66% actually say conditions were good. So overall, stable to pretty positive.
And looking out 6 months, still feeling okay?
Similar vibe, cautiously positive. About 31% expected things to improve in the next 6 months.
All right. Stable, bit of optimism. What are the biggest worries or threats people see? What's keeping them up at night?
Top of the list, budgetary constraints.
Yeah.
36.36% cited that, which makes sense, right? Economy plus the cost of managing all this data and maybe adopting new tech.
Budgets, yeah.
Yeah.
Always a factor. What else?
Next was data management complexity, which, again, no surprise given that 30% annual data growth figure we talked about. More data, different types of data, it just gets harder.
Budgets and complexity. The classic headaches, maybe just amplified now. Okay, back to the big story. AI. How are organizations actually using or planning to use generative AI and LLMs in eDiscovery right now? What did that survey say?
This is really telling, I thought. A clear majority, 57.14%, said they are actively deploying JLM tech.
57% actively deploying. That feels surprisingly high, given how new this stuff is in practical terms.
Oh,
What do we think deploying really means here? Is it widespread or more experimental?
that's a great question. And the survey doesn't fully detail the depth of deployment. Actively deploying definitely means it's out of the lab being used in real work.
Okay.
But it probably varies a lot. Could be for specific, maybe limited tasks,
Yeah.
like drafting deposition summaries, maybe initial coding suggestions for review, rather than, say, fully automating the entire review process yet. The key is most places are doing something beyond just kicking the tires.
Gotcha. So significant real-world use starting, even if the scope varies. What's the main benefit they hope to get from this?
The number one expected benefit was improved service or product delivery. They see AI as a way to deliver more value, basically, either internally or to their clients.
Makes sense. But like we discussed with the VC money, there's always the other side of the coin. What are the main worries or concerns about using AI in eDiscovery?
Right, this gets to that dichotomy the source mentioned. Potential versus practical hurdles. The top concerns cited were result accuracy,
Big one.
huge, implementation costs,
Also big.
and regulatory compliance. So lots of excitement about what AI could do, but very real questions about, is it reliable enough? Can we afford to implement it properly? And how do we navigate the legal and ethical rules around using it for sensitive legal stuff?
That tracks completely. Powerful tech is one thing, making sure it's trustworthy, affordable, and compliant in a high-stakes field like law. That's the challenge.
Absolutely. The stakes are definitely high.
Okay, let's switch gears completely now and talk about something super concrete, pricing. The Winter 2025 survey dug into what people are reporting for different eDiscovery services. Where should we start? Maybe the more established stuff first.
Sounds good. Let's look at forensic collection. Pricing seems relatively stable there. For an on-site examiner, rates are typically reported between $250 and $350 an hour.
Okay.
Remote collection is often similar, maybe trending slightly lower as it gets more common and efficient. Collecting from a computer, a device collection, often reported above $350 per device.
All right, stable enough. What about processing and hosting, where data volume is king?
Yeah, pricing there is still really competitive. You can see the pressure. For processing, just getting the data, in most reported rates, under $25 per gigabyte.
Under 25 gigabytes for ingestion.
Right. Post-processing, extraction, indexing, all that, mostly under $100 per GB day. Hosting is super competitive. Basic hosting, usually under $10 per GB per month.
Wow, under $10.
Yeah. And hosting with analytics features baked in, typically under $15 per GB per month. Then you often have user licenses on top, maybe $50 to $100 per user per month.
Those numbers definitely show how those core data tasks have become more commoditized over time. What about the human effort, like project management?
PM rates have more variation. Makes sense. Depends on complexity, right? Half the respondents said $100 to $200 an hour, but over a third reported rates above $200 an hour.
So a wider range there. And finally, document review, including things like predictive coding.
Yeah, for doc review, predictive coding definitely pushed alternative pricing models beyond just hourly or per gig. For managed review attorneys, if they're on-site, rates are often over $40 an hour or over $1 per document.
Okay.
Remote review seems more spread out. Attorney rates often maybe $25 to $40 an hour. Per document costs kind of balance around 50 cents to $1, and then also over $1, maybe reflecting different review tiers or tech involved.
Okay, that gives us a pretty good straight line for the traditional service pricing.
Yep, the established areas.
But then there's the new frontier, generative AI-assisted review. This feels like the big question mark right now. What did the survey find about pricing there?
Oh yeah, the Gen AI pricing results really highlight just how new and, frankly, undefined this part of the market is. Interestingly, the most common model people reported was per document pricing.
Okay, per document. But how many people are actually using this or even know how it's priced?
Well, that's the thing. Not that many yet. The survey found nearly a third of respondents were either unfamiliar with Gen AI services or just hadn't adopted them. And here's the kicker that shows the uncertainty. Over half of the respondents could not report any standard pricing. Not per document, not per GB, nothing.
Wow, over half couldn't even put a number on it. That just screams market figuring things out. If you're a client trying to budget for this,
Yeah.
good luck.
It's definitely a challenge for providers figuring out how to price it and for clients trying to plan. Now, for the minority who could give pricing,
Yeah.
the most common per document cost they reported for Gen AI assisted review fell between $26 and $60.50.
Okay, 26 to 50 cents a doc.
Right. But per GB pricing for Gen AI, the survey described it as largely undefined, just not really there yet as a standard metric.
What about other models, like tying the price to the outcome or the efficiency savings the AI delivers? Is that happening?
Not really, according to this survey. Outcome-based pricing was also largely underdeveloped. For the very few who reported any structured model, it was mostly custom agreements tied to specific project goals. Very bespoke, very early days.
And what about exceptions? Documents the AI chokes on or that need special handling? How is that priced?
Again, lots of uncertainty. Nearly half the respondents were just unsure how those exceptions are handled or priced in the current Gen AI models. Just reinforces that the practical side, the workflows, the pricing, it's all still being built.
The source used a great phrase, didn't it? Summing up the whole pricing situation right now. The story of eDiscovery pricing in 2025 is about readiness.
That nails it. Especially for Gen AI. The uncertainty isn't necessarily because it lacks value. It's because organizations are still deep in the process of figuring out, how do we use this reliably? How do we validate it? How does it fit our workflow? And then how do we price it consistently, fairly, in a way clients understand and see value in? That's a huge challenge, but also, a big opportunity for whoever figures it out first.
Which really sets up an interesting final thought for us to chew on as we wrap up.
I think so. You look at the massive global AI investment, you see the solid growth projected for eDiscovery, driven by tech and data. And then you see this real clear uncertainty around how to price the most advanced AI services like Gen AI Review. So the core question becomes, right, how quickly can the industry translate the potential of AI, the promise of better, faster, cheaper, into stable, profitable, understandable pricing models, especially when clients and providers are both still learning the true costs and value.
Yeah.
The sources show a market that's definitely ready for more tech, more modernization. But that specific path for AI pricing, it's still very much being charted right now.
That really captures the state of play perfectly. We've covered a lot of ground today. That huge VC influx into AI, the steady growth forecast for eDiscovery itself, pushed by tech and data.
That subtle but important shift towards software.
Right. What it all means for different people in the ecosystem. The current business mood, cautiously optimistic but worried about budgets and complexity.
And finishing with that fascinating, still very fuzzy picture of Gen AI pricing.
Yeah.
The data we looked at from Complex Discovery really naps it out, though. Adapting seems key, right? Embracing the cloud, figuring out how to leverage AI where it genuinely adds value, refining those workflows. It feels less like an option and more like a necessity to navigate what's coming.
It definitely paints a vivid picture of a market in motion. Thanks for helping unpack all of that.
My pleasure.
And thank you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this gave you some valuable perspective on the forces reshaping eDiscovery, especially the exciting and sometimes confusing role AI is playing. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and honestly, we're already looking forward to digging into another complex topic with you next time.